I'm trying to make a video of a hydraulic cylinder repair for a direct lift ProPark 8S hydraulic cylinder. I made a long video because before I started the repair I couldn't find any information on what to do. There was nothing on YouTube. I couldn't find any instructions or anything. I even called one of the sellers of the direct lift and they really were no help. So what this video is an attempt to condense my original video where I made several mistakes because of not having any instructions. I'm trying to condense this into a shorter video that will allow you to just simply follow these instructions and get your cylinder rebuilt without going through all the agony I went through to get mine done. If this cord was a little bit higher, it'd be a little bit better, but hopefully that will hold it tight enough that I can get the piston out of the casing here. Put it about there. Okay. Time to figure out how it goes together. What I'm probably going to do once I get this out is I am going to pull the snap ring off and see what happens. I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen, because like I said, it only appears to keep this cap from going into the cylinder. So what I'm going to do is measure here, because I need to get this approximately the same distance. It's about 11.5 inches from the edge of the case. That does not mean the edge of the part that goes in the case. So, first thing to do is you need a pair of external snap ring pliers. Expand that ring, pull it off. I don't know whether it's a good idea to have this on or not. I need to take that snap ring off, and I don't want to damage the piston. And this needs to screw off as well. Okay, the snap ring is away from the piston. What I'm a little bit baffled about is why, if that snap ring is the way it is, why doesn't that come out whenever you get pressure inside that cylinder? Something else has to be holding it. That came off unexpectedly, but heavy as that is, it's more likely to damage the floor than the piece. I am going to see if there's something in that where the hydraulic line goes in that prevents the cylinder from coming out. So in playing with that, I was able to move this piston out a little bit, and when I did, the fluid shot out of the hole where it goes in. So what I'm going to do is loosen this up and turn it 90 degrees so that instead of shooting across the shop, it shoots down. So that's 90 degrees. I still don't know how this part comes out. It might screw in. That's the only thing I can think of. And if it screws in, then the snap ring, now that wouldn't prevent it from screwing out. I'm not exactly sure what keeps this in. There's some fluid coming out now. I might need more manpower just to pull this out. I don't see any other fastener that prevents it from coming out. This will give me a better grip on it. Might be a long process here. Strangely enough, draining whenever I put pressure in, which is counterintuitive because when fluid goes in there, the ram comes out this way. You would think it would be the opposite effect. You'd need to pull it out in order to get it to drain. So I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to see what kind of a wrench I might have to take that off potentially. I'm finally making some progress on pulling this piston out, but well, before it came suddenly and came out pretty far. There you go. But I still haven't figured out how you get the darn thing out of the piston, out of the cylinder. I need to empty my drain pan again. So I've been playing around with this for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, pulling that piston in and out, and with each time I was pulling it out, I was getting more fluid draining out of there. It's like maybe about 2 gallons in all. But I still can't figure out how you get the piston out of the cylinder. So I talked to this tech support guy at DerekWeaver.com, where they sell lifts, direct lift being one of them. And this is the contents of the rebuild kit. You get 3 smaller O-rings, 2 bigger O-rings, a couple smaller seals, a big seal, a foam piece, and I'm not even sure what this is. It's almost solid, but it's flexible. Not sure what it is, but he says that's part of the internal seal. He says what holds it in are these 2 nylon rings. They're split, so you're able to spread them, and you just have to use brute force to get them out. Spend some time thinking. And the snap ring goes on the outside of this, and what it would do is prevent this piece here, which the support tech called a gland. That snap ring keeps that from going in. So just maybe the trick is to actually push this in far enough to get to the rings that hold it in place. Since I've already proved that I can move it in and out, that's what I'm going to try. Okay. What I'm finding is an O-ring, or a split ring here, that is probably what I'm after. I'm going to remove the one. If I can get it, I will get it. I'm determined. That's a metal ring. That might not be included in part of the kit. But let's see if we can pull it out now. I'm going to move this carefully down the shaft so I'm not scoring it. And I'm going to try to pull that out. I'm going to make sure that the camera's still recording. This might be the key. Now I only pulled one of those, so if there's more than one, I might have to do it again, drive it in further. That certainly came out further. So that was part of the trick. Let's see if I can see in there. I do not see anything else. I may have to drive it in further again, see if there's a second ring, but for the time being, pull it out a little bit. Okay, I switched batteries. I'm going to try to pull and twist like I was doing before I got that snap ring out. Maybe we'll have more success. Get that ring out of there. If not, then I'm guessing maybe some taps on this end with a hammer. Try going in it. There's too much resistance that way, it seems. So try the dead blow hammer first on the end here on the block that the cable's attached to. Tell whether that's moving anything. Well, maybe. I'm seeing an O-ring now. I didn't see that before. So this cart might need positioned a little differently. Let's just try wiggling and pulling now that it's moved some. Hopefully I can get it out without it coming all of a sudden. That's wishful thinking, I think. Try some more taps with the dead blow hammer. I think she's coming. It was just like that one seal is what's holding it now. A few more taps with the dead blow hammer. Actually now, I may be able to get a pull behind here to pry. That's just moving that. Okay. Did blow hammer again. Okay, I got it out. Sorry that didn't show up on the camera because it came out relatively easily. All I did was push this rod in a little bit and making sure that I pulled it out in perfect alignment, or as perfect as I could get. And it popped right out. So, hopefully that's the hard part of the job. You can see some of that seal got torn up. I'm sure some of that was me yanking on it to pull it apart. And hopefully, when I put it back in, it's going to be easier because I won't be fighting that lip. That seal will go in a position where it can be compressed. I'm going to have to take these nuts off because this must come off so that I can replace the seals on the inside of both of these. The two rubber O-rings go toward the seal. The two plastic rings basically are there to hold in the two big O-rings. So, okay, this is the end I'm going to work on the piston from. This is an 1.25 inch nut, and then there's a fiber ring, somewhat of a flexible ring of some sort. The blue seal with the beveled edge facing to me. Then this part here has two O-rings and two nylon rings. The O-rings are closer to me than the nylon rings. The way I can tell which end goes on the shaft first, the end where the snap ring, the external snap ring went on. And as a matter of fact, let's find that thing. Let's put it on so that we're not okay. To put that off, I would have to put that on. I would have to take off the other end, so maybe I'm not going to do that. I'll just remember that the snap ring end goes on the side toward where the cables connect, which is up there on my bench. So let's give this a go. 1.25 inches. Sometimes it's pain when you have gloves on because it makes it difficult to get your extensions and such off. And now I lost track of my inch and a quarter. Yeah, it's on the nut, right where I left it. Make sure we're loosen. Loosen. I turned this down again because it wasn't cooperating with me. Now there's another nut on there. See what size it is. Also inch and a quarter. Let's see how easily this comes off now. Not too bad. Okay. Inside of here is where a couple of those O-rings go. So you have to pick those out, put the new ones in. And as I assemble this stuff, I am going to have hydraulic fluid to lubricate them. Okay. See what's inside this one. Turn the light on. Looks as if one of those O-rings is inside there. I need more light than that. Camera light isn't enough. So there's an O-ring. Looks like a blue seal. And this side looks like another seal. These look a little different than what the kit I got contained, so I hope that's not a problem. Sometimes they change the kits. And they just don't tell you. So, I guess the first thing I'm going to do is work on the piece that, well, maybe I should work on the one that goes on the shaft first. Then I can put it on the shaft and work on the one that is on the end of the shaft. Let's do it that way. That one's out. Let's see what it looks like now. Maybe it does look like one that was in the kit. So that came from the end that is on the outside of the cylinder, which, because I have these reversed, means it goes on the shaft first. So working from the same direction, I'll go after the first O-ring. That one's pretty easy. I'll line these up in the order that they came so I can match the pieces from the new kit. Easier to work with the straight pick on this one. Don't know if the camera's catching that. Try to shed some light on it. Do my best. That might work. I'm going down in here. There's a blue rubber seal. Be careful not to stab myself. See if we can get it from the other end. Seems to be a little better. Fortunately, there's a little bend in the tip of my pick here. It means I have to work from this side, which is probably getting in the way. Got another pick with a straighter end on it that probably will be a little bit easier. I can get it started with the straight pick and then slip this one under it. Oops. It can be tough to do out of there, apparently.
Be careful with these picks because you could go all the way through that hole and stab yourself in the hand. That wouldn't be fun. Probably be easier if I could put this in a vise. I've got my vise occupied with the cylinder. Hope the new ones go in easier than these come out. We've got it started a little bit, see if I can work it from the other side. Tough there too. Well, I don't think there's going to be much point in me leaving the camera run while I try to dig this out because it's just going to be more of the same. Persistence until I get it out. Times it seems like it's almost there, and then I lose it, lose the grip on it. Come on. I'd like to give you a sense of how long this takes. Which is why I'm reluctant to turn off the camera, but really don't want to make you watch all of this. So, long story short, I'm going to work at that in that manner until I can dig it out. Camera's been off for maybe about a minute. I dug one pick under, got the other one behind it, and there it is. So that is the third piece. Okay, that one, it's got a lip on it. You can see. So before I put that in, I have to make sure I know which way the fluid's going to push against, because it's got to push against this lip. So if it pushes against this bevel, it'll just compress it and it won't be an effective seal. It's hard to see in there without so it goes this way. there's 2 more seals that have to come off of this, or O-rings I should say. These retaining rings go behind the O-rings. Okay. I'm gonna find me a, hopefully I can find a clean container to put a little bit of this hydraulic fluid in, so I can dip those in before I try to install them in the piece. So here we go. Open end of the seal has to catch the fluid. So this sits here and doesn't move. Push that seal in. Get it flipped around. Well, that's not an easy task. Wow. This might take some doing. You can get it in there by crimping it, but you need to get it flipped around. There's no room to do it. Don't want to use any tools for fear of damaging the seal. See if we can squeeze it in this way. Seems like you almost have to bend this into a shape of a C by pushing one end in all the way to there, sliding it down in, and then letting it pop out. So the last time I worked on this was on Friday. It is now Monday. And I was having a lot of trouble bending this seal to get it in. You notice this cup here. That has to be the opening to the cup has to be on the side that the fluid is on. So when this goes on this shaft, it's got to go this way. And I tried to explain that on one of the videos last week, and I picked it up and you couldn't see what I was trying to demonstrate. So kind of go over that again. So this is the end of the rod that goes inside the cylinder, and the first thing I want to do so I don't forget is the things I need on the end of that are the snap ring that holds the gland in, and the gland is this part that I'm trying to get the seal in. It goes in this groove, and that actually keeps it from going into the cylinder too far. That's what holds it out. There's another ring that goes in this groove here. I don't know if you can see the groove. There's another ring that goes in there. It's a metal ring. Not really designed for snap ring pliers, but it has to go on, and once that gland is in there, it gets put inside this groove here. And if you've been watching the video, not skipping, you've seen me take that out twice. But that has to go on before the gland as well, because you can't stretch either one of these things over the rod. They just don't have that much give with, I think you'd destroy them. So I'm going to try to explain again. I think you may not have been able to see what I was trying to demonstrate last week. So this gland goes on the shaft this way, which means that this seal has to go in this way so that when fluid pushes up against it, it expands that seal. So I was having trouble with that last week, trying to bend it into what I called a C, and other people call it a kidney shape. But it turns out there's a tool for that. And the tool is right here. I'm going to back off so that you can see the whole tool. And you put the seal in there, bend it this way, it makes it into a C, and I will demonstrate that. And you put it inside the gland. So I'm going to soak that seal in a little bit of hydraulic fluid to lubricate it. And let's see, I'm going to push it in this way. So I need It gets put on like that, and then you rotate these two around. I was calling it a C, they call it a kidney shape. Now, I've got that backwards because I need to have the open end facing me after it's inserted. So put in open end facing me. Rotate it around. It is now narrow enough to fit down in that hole. Hopefully it will go in easily. It's actually still a tight fit. Wow. Nothing's easy. Okay, I'm going to try it from the other end, which means I've got to reverse this again. Maybe it'll go in easier that way. So, open end is going to go in first. Closed end towards me, which is going to be this side of the tool's good at turning gloves. Wow, I cannot get this in even with the tool. Got it past. Only got it past because I'll show you once I get it in here. It's in the slot. I'm removing the tool. Trying to anyway. I only got it in that because the front end of it slipped off, and so I'll demonstrate what I mean by that on the old one I have. That might actually be a useful technique for doing it. So there we have the gland in there, or the seal in the gland. We've got the open end this way, which is the way it goes on the shaft, so that the fluid is going to be pushing this way. So demonstrating with the old seal. The only way I got in there, and it was kind of luck, and I'm not paying particular attention to which way the opening is here. So I got it on the tool. I changed it into the kidney shape, and this part here came down off of the seal like that, which made it a little bit thinner. It may have come off more. Like I said, this is the destroyed thing. May have come off more and rested totally flat on this shaft of the tool. But without doing that, I don't think it was going to go in. Once that happened, by accident, so you can make it happen on purpose, went in very easily. Okay. Next part, there's a O-ring. That's the old one. I'm going to get another glove. So the O-ring goes in next. Inside that gland. So I had seen people use that tool on some YouTube videos, and I recommend, that's what I did. I didn't find any with this particular cylinder, so this is unique as far as what I found on YouTube. But I saw several videos, and I just watched people using different techniques to get those seals in. One guy actually took a pair of pliers and just smashed this together and put a zip tie around it and tied it together and then bent it in on the two sides to make it the kidney shape in it. Then once he got it started, he cut the zip tie and it was in. It might be a little tricky when you're cutting the zip tie to keep from cutting your seal. There's 3 O-rings in here that are smaller, so I got to make sure I get the correct one. And make sure I don't mix the darn things up, old and new, like I did fortuitously the other day with the blue seal. So once you've got that blue seal in there, let me just double check to make sure I'm still in the frame here, because I was out of the frame last Friday. I think that should be okay. But basically this is very pliable, so this should not be the problem that blue seal was. Just a matter of getting it lined up to the groove that it goes in and pushing it into the groove. Easier said than done when your fingers are almost as big as the hole in the gland. Actually, it might be a good idea to just pinch this in the middle like the tool does. Let me try it that way. Try to pinch it with my fingers. Get one end down in there. It's not going in easy. Sure, if I can get most of it in the groove that it belongs in, I can just stick something that isn't sharp down on the edge of it and pull it in and snap it in. Okay, I'll bring it for a close-up. You can see that I've got it most of the way in. Actually, it's pretty hard. There you can see it. I'm just working on pushing that into that groove right there. And there it's in. And one last piece is they call it a wiper. Wipes any dirt off of this shaft as it goes in and out. And this, the thin part here, sticks out. So it's got to go in this shaft, in this gland, so that it sticks out. And this is pretty much just the same thing. It's rubber, bends pretty easily, but might be easier if you can kind of bend that into a C, or kidney shape as they call it. Of course, that's easier said than done. The old one came out easier than the new one's going in, that's for sure. There we go. We got it. Sticks out a little bit and wipes the shaft. This is where the O-ring or the snap ring goes. There's two O-ring grooves here now. Gotta get those out. So 2 large O-rings and 2 snap rings. I'm going to try, and I'll let you know whether it's a good idea or not. I'm going to try to put the outer O-ring on first, and hopefully the second one will go over it easier than having it fall into this slot and then have to dig it out to get it over this hump to get it into the second groove. So again, some hydraulic fluid. I'm holding this because I just had a thought that maybe it's not a good idea to rest the gland on this wiper seal. And then this is probably, hopefully, the easiest part because this is split. I can just put this over the thing and behind behind the O-ring. So this is the pressure side. It's the O-ring, then the seal, and then the O-ring, then the, I'm sorry, the retainer, the plastic retainer. O-ring, retainer, O-ring, retainer. Keep in mind now, I'm trying to go over this other O-ring with this one. And that slipped right on really easily. And again, the plastic retainer, I don't think it makes a difference, but I'm going to try, like you do with piston rings in an engine. If I can find where this is split, and I can't see it. Wow. I was going to try to separate the two splits by 180 degrees. I don't really think it makes a difference, but I cannot see the split, so I'm guessing I'm just going to put it on. There's nothing there to see. Oh well. We'll do it that way. So, O-ring, retainer, O-ring, retainer. So, now this goes on the shaft this way. This wiper seal is toward the O-ring, or the split ring side. So I'm going to slip this on, put a little bit of the fluid that's on my hands. On the rod. What I've seen most people do is just kind of give this a bump with their hands, like that. don't want this resting on these rings anywhere, so I'm going to move it down. Put some more hydraulic fluid on it to lubricate it. And the wiper's doing a good job of just wiping it off. Okay. So that part of the job is done. The next part is this piston that, again, it's got an opening part in the seal here, and that goes to the fluid side. So this rod is going to sit inside this cylinder, and the fluid is going to be between the seal on that gland and this seal here. So we got to pry off that seal. And this is a split ring that comes off really easily. And there's another one in the kit like that. I don't know if I'm going to replace this part right here, because what comes in the kit looks like a little piece of sponge, and I don't know if it's going to be able to get it in there. This does appear to have a slit in it right there. But before I do that, this seal's got to come off. That looks like that might be a job. I need to shut off the camera for a second and get some screwdrivers or something to try and work with that. Well, here goes nothing. I'm going to try to illuminate the subject a little bit. Try to get down behind here with a screwdriver. Wonder if it'd be better to go the other side. This looks like a good opportunity to stab yourself with a screwdriver. Yikes. things, of course, have to be heavy duty. In order to hold the pressure. So, come out easy. Should make this a two-piece unit and bolt it together. So that you could just put the seal in and be done with it. Unbolt it, put the seal in it. Wow. This might take a while. I think I'm going to get a little bit bigger screwdriver. Don't need it for the size, that may even be a detriment, but for the strength it might be a good idea. Start with that little one behind it and work the big one next to the little one. Now I've got a screwdriver behind it. So I managed to get the tack puller completely through it over to the other edge. Hopefully now I can use that as a pry and pry it up and over the lip. It's going to want to slip down. See if I can get it further on. Lose the progress I've made because it's slow coming. These. Dripping water out of my gloves. My hands are sweating so bad. Got the tack puller in a lot further. Trouble is, when I pull on that, everything else falls out. Okay. I think now I've got that far out, I might be able to just cut it. That was easy. In the meantime, I have looked at this piece of what I thought was foam. I think it's felt, which is what the other piece there is. So I think I am going to replace that. It does have a cut in it like that. So, for now, I'm going to clean up. I'll pull this piece of felt out. And I'll clean up this piston and start to try and put the seals on. The smaller, this face here is much smaller than the outside face where I was trying to get the screwdriver in, so maybe since that thing is beveled, it will slip on a lot easier. Oh, I forgot, there's two little O-rings in here I've got to dig out and replace. I want to do those first so that I'm not screwing around with the new seals. Trying to get those out and back in. One of the videos I watched, somebody called this an O-ring pick. I never knew there was a specific thing like that. Specific name for it. Apparently he was right. That was the easiest I've ever removed O-rings from inside or outside. And inside's usually worse. So we got the two O-rings. We'll try to keep the piston in the frame of the camera. There's one in. Took the other one out of the fluid. Well, those were the easiest so far. Now, I think it's going to be best to deal with that seal first. And I got to make sure this goes on the end of the not in the frame. This goes on the end of the rod this way, so the fluid's going to be pushing this way, so the cup has to be open towards this side. Lots of fluid on here. Ooh, that's not even close to the size. Wow. I'm thinking this is going to be a job. There's probably a tool for this too, but I didn't see one. Wow. There's no way it's going to go over that because it's well short of it. So it's got to tuck under first. I did hear that you could soak these in hot water to heat them up. Make them more pliable. I don't know that putting water in the inside of your hydraulic cylinder is a good idea. Trying to get it caught under this lip and then press with the heel of my hands on the edge of it. Might be risky, but I gotta get more leverage than I can get with the palm of my hands. So, trying to get this tack puller, which is basically smooth on this side, underneath there. It's smooth on both sides, as long as you don't catch an edge. I wonder if setting it out in the sun would help heat it up, make it more pliable. I'm going to try to set it in the sun. See if that helps. So I've had the seal sitting out there for about 20 minutes in the sun, and I actually took the tray of hydraulic fluid out, put it in the tray, and it's been in there for about 20 minutes. Only problem is the sun just went in behind a cloud, so it's as good as it's going to get for a while. Thought I was getting close. Just when you think you got it, it slips off. Afraid to put anything behind there to pry it. Anything that's hard enough to pry it is probably going to be hard enough to cut it. Gonna try an idea. I know I have more of these around. If I can get it started, clamp it so that it can't come off. And get another one once I get this kind of started. Get another one over on the other side. Now I have more of those. I gotta go find them. Gonna try that. Okay, this is kind of ugly, but it's kind of working. I've got several of these clamps, and I've been slowly walking it around, much like you would walk a tire around a wheel, and moving them. I've got to get down here and just taking them a little bit at a time. Uh-oh, I'm losing it. About ready to lose this one clamp on the side here. I'm gonna let that go. big ones may be too big, getting in my way. That's not damaging that seal, because I don't know of any other way to get it on. Actually going to put this towards the edge and try to use it . It's slowly walking its way on. I'm glad I left the video running, because I eventually walked it all the way around with those clamps. It was a chore. Just for timekeeping. Took me about a half an hour from the time I took the seal and the hydraulic fluid out of the sun and started to put the seal on this piston and put the piston on the rod. Still haven't found my two retaining nuts, but I can clear up some of the bench and that'll help me find them. So my nuts that go on the end of the rod were right with the impact wrench and the socket that I needed to use on them. Okay, I just have that on 2 out of 4. I don't want to go crazy wild on it. I am going to use a bit of blue thread lockered blue on it, and that should keep it from coming apart. One of the videos that I watched, the guys, he had it on I believe it was a backhoe or a, what do you call those little things? I can't remember the name of them now. But his piston had come off the end of his rod, and although if that happened here, the lift would completely stop working. On a backhoe, he had 2 pistons, and one was working and it was doing some of the work, and it was just beating up the piston every time he extended or retracted it the full distance. So what you have there is 2 nuts. The first one was tightened, and the second one was tightened up against it to lock it, and the second one has blue thread locker on it. So that should be good. What else have we here? We have to put on this retainer, whatever it does, I'm not sure what exactly it does. Oops, that's the old one. Don't want to do that. The new one was soaking in the... I guess there's a lesson here. The number of times I've picked up the wrong one. You really ought to be careful about where you're putting the old and the new. I don't know what you're supposed to do to keep this down. None of the videos that I saw had anything like this. And that's got to go in the bore before the seal. Wow. They didn't make this easy, our friends at Direct Lift. This one might have a chance of staying in because it's felt. It does have a gap in it though at the end. The old one didn't. Yeah, okay, if I stretch it a little bit, it closes the gap. I'm pretty certain that is everything that I need to do before I can start loading this in. It's going to be hard with one person because of the tendency for these things to want to come out. Okay, I am going to back the camera up, see if I can do that. I think I'm going to need some luck here. Wish it was on the other side of this. Gonna be in the way of the camera potentially, but that's gonna try to come out of me. And I already lost the other ring. trying to bend this. Hopefully it will stay on. I'm beginning to wish that I had decided to keep the old, got one old ring. Doesn't look like there's any wear on it. And it doesn't have any sealing properties because it's got a slit. It's just not entirely sure what it's there for. Gonna give it one more try with the new one, and then I may go back to the old one. I needed something to support this end of the rod. I don't have anything handy. Maybe I do. Step ladder. So I've got the end of it supported on a step of the step ladder. It goes over to the cylinder. Getting low on battery, so I might have to stop and change this, but so that's 9 minutes. And I'm going to try to stuff this in here within that 9 minutes. Pull this over to the top and make it easier for me to hold it up. And I felt it's getting pinched. Didn't go all the way in. Bring that up to the top where I can see it too. Piece is being a royal pain because it's not bent all the way. I should probably wet that with a little hydraulic fluid. Coming out of the gap. Gotta get it done in there. Okay. Okay, I think all I have to do, I'm going to check the battery on the camera. I think all I have to do is just give that a good shove straight in.
At this point in the video, I wanted to pause, and this is where I made the biggest mistake. When I pushed the piston into the cylinder, I had seen other people do it with different styles of hydraulic cylinders, and they pushed it all the way to the end. But because of the difference in how the gland is installed, it's critically important that you only push the piston in 4 or 5 inches, just enough to get the gland installed and the snap ring installed so that it won't pop out under pressure. If you push it all the way down and then insert the gland, what happens is the O-rings on the gland are past the inlet for the hydraulic fluid, and what you end up with is a bunch of air in the cylinder, and to try to pull that back out to pop the gland in place, you are fighting all of that compressed air, or you're trying to compress it and you're fighting it. What you need to do is put that gland in, only have the piston in 4 or 5 inches, and then give it a quick sudden jerk to pop the gland back out to the retaining ring, and then you should be able to put the snap ring on the outside. Now this thing, probably just like it came out, I can probably just tap that in with a brass drift. So I will change my battery in the camera, tap that in. You'll notice about here that you can see the plate that connects the cables to the lift is only about 1.5 feet at most from the cylinder. That is what caused me the problem. You need to have that piston extended so that you're not having to compress a bunch of air to pop that gland into place.
Now I can get a better shot at the, I didn't have to put these on, so I can get a better shot at the gland to pound it in. Once we get that second ring past that groove, it should be pretty good. Pounding it from different directions to make sure it goes in straight. Doesn't get cocked. I've got to get that in far enough to get that one ring in there. That should do it. believe it's starting to move out. It is. I can almost see the ring for the snap ring goes in, the groove it goes in. So let's see if we can get the snap ring on there now. Looks like we might be able to. Try to stay out of the way here. If I had been smart enough or been given instructions to put the rod in, and once you get it in 3 or 4 inches, put the gland in, I wouldn't have had to go through any of this. Just there we go. Snap ring is on, it's all in place. Now, in order to put that back in the lift, I'm going to have to compress that back the other way.
What I had to do to get my gland popped back in place was figure out a way to compress that air in that cylinder so that it would push the gland. What I ended up doing was using a hydraulic jack cylinder from an engine hoist and basically jacking it out until all the air came out of the inlet for the hydraulic fluid after the air got compressed enough to move the gland a little bit. So in this video you'll notice that I am jacking the gland out and it comes out very slowly. The only reason I did that was because I already had that system set up and it would have required me to reposition the cylinder so that I could get a handle on it and get good leverage to pop it out manually. So I just did that because it was quicker to continue using the jack than to readjust everything to do it the way I'm suggesting by just doing a quick jerk on the end of the rod. I am pretty confident that a quick jerk on the end of the rod will work. I just wanted to let you know why I'm doing it differently than what I'm telling you. So once I got it moved a tiny little bit, it appears like it's going to be relatively easy to push in. Building up some pressure, or resistance I should say. I don't want to push this in too far because I need to have enough of it out so that I can put the cables on while it's on the lift. So I'm probably going to leave about, I don't know, close to 1.5 feet out. Give me an eyeball about where the 1.5 feet is. Maybe not quite that much. So 1.5 feet would be right in line with this license plate.
the end of the license plate. Okay, I went past 1.5 feet, but it looks to be like I'll have enough play to put it back in. So now, all I got to do is put it back in the lift and try it. So the piston is back in. Not the piston, the hydraulic ram is back in. Yesterday I had enough fluid to get it to pick up the slack in the cables, but not enough to raise it off of the locks. So I had to stop at that point and go get some fluid. My plan here is that I'm going to add fluid a little at a time until I can get it up off of the locks so that I can lower it down. And lowering it down will remove all the fluid and some of the air from the cylinder, push it back to the reservoir. Then I will fill it up to the fill mark and then raise it up again, lower it again, fill it to the fill mark till I bleed all the air out. I don't want to overfill it right from the beginning, because if I do, then when it goes down, it's just going to overflow out the filler cap of the reservoir. So, in keeping with my showing the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm going to show the first test. And I can tell you right now that my plan, if it leaks profusely, will be to just go ahead and bite the bullet and buy a new ram, because I will assume that the inside of the cylinder is scored and that a new one's the better option. If there's a minor leak that I can live with, obviously I'll just live with it. So here goes. May need to add more fluid to get that to lift. So while I do that, I'm going to keep in mind there's air in there now and it's compressing the air. So it could take a fair amount of fluid to compress it all. Ready for the next attempt. Pumping fluid in. Obviously I need to add more because it's not lifting it yet. So the reservoir is going down. So it's just replacing or compressing that air in the cylinder right now. So far I've added a total of 1 gallon of fluid. I only bought 2, so I hope I start to see some results soon. It's off of the lift, off of the locks. Now I'm going to lower it down. I would imagine that noise is air getting pushed out of the cylinder. on the ground, and I just realized that you didn't see most of that coming down because of where I had the camera aimed at the bottom of the lift. So I'm going to fill the reservoir up to the full mark, raise it again, and then we'll see if there's more air left in it, and potentially if that gets bled out I might have to add more to the reservoir. Okay, so the foam at the top of the fluid in the reservoir is right at the fill line. I think it's probably less than that because of all the bubbles, but I would also think that the bubbles are all at the top so that I can actually raise the lift again, at least partially, without getting bubbles into the solvent. It sounded like it might have been pumping some air bubbles back into there. So what I am going to do is take a quick look. There's no major leaks, that's for sure, because I don't see any fluid dripping anywhere. So I'm going to call that good for now. Yep, no new fluid showing, not even a little drip. So I'm going to call that good for now, but I stopped it at a point that I can work on some of the things I wanted to work on, and I'm going to let it just sit for a while, and hopefully those air bubbles will dissipate. Obviously it can lift the frame of the car and the lift. So I'm going to call this a success. It was a long, hard process due to the fact that I didn't have any videos to look at. Keep in mind this is a long video, and there are mistakes made along the way because I didn't have anything to go by. There's no instructions, couldn't find anything on the web. Actually got some bad information from one of the companies that sells direct lifts. So I was flying blind, and as I said a couple times, I think, in the videos I made, I think some of the things I did were experiments, but all in all, I've got an operational lift, and I have the videos to create a YouTube video to help people who might attack this job on a direct lift because their cylinders are different than everything I saw on the web. Everything I saw on the web, the gland just went in and screwed in from the outside. So you could push the piston all the way into the cylinder and then put the gland in place, no problem, because you didn't have to then back it out of the cylinder after putting that snap ring in. So hopefully this will help a lot of people, because if I had this information before I started, this would have been days quicker, and by days I usually work 3.5 to 4.5 hours a day on it. So probably a good 8 hours, if not more, of labor that I did due to not having directions, not having videos, and I'm hoping that a lot of people will benefit from this video.